Hello and welcome back. You are with me, Icy Snaps, and today we are doing a tier list. This will be my first ever tier list, so let's hope it goes well. So this little band, you've probably never heard of them. Boards of Canada. I feel like they're the most well-known obscure band out there. Like, who doesn't know who they are, but also they're kind of weird. They have that same energy as Aphex Twin, but a little less appreciated maybe, I don't know. I fell in love with them straight away. They satisfied that itch after binge listening Aphex Twin at the time, especially his like more ambient stuff anyway. I know they released some music in the 80s, but they were around the same time as Aphex Twin. Their later 90s releases, you can really hear that influence from him, I think. So we got some albums and some EPs. Their discography is shorter than I remember. We have Twoism, which is a self-release, reissued in 2002, I believe. I actually have a copy of it on vinyl somewhere. It also has a few songs that will be put on their full album. The music has the right to children. It's one of the more unsettling albums in their catalogue, but weirdly still quite comfortable. Probably because of the analog instruments and all the tape recordings and all that sort of stuff, which does unfortunately make things feel a little washed out, but I think it's played unintentionally into their whole aesthetic, adding some like really nice fuzzy texture to their music. Some of my favourite tracks on the album are Bass Free, which is kind of chaotic and heavy, but slightly washed out, unfortunately. Oi Rectine and See You Later are some other great tracks, but some songs that I'm not huge on are Melissa Juice. The panning just feels so weird in this song, like unintentional, like they recorded it wrong or something. Compared to a lot of the other releases, it doesn't hit quite as hard, so I think I'm going to put that in C tier, controversial. Moving on to High Scores, a 1996 release on Scam Records. This one to me has a bit more of an Aphex Twin inspired sound. I mean, listen to June 9th and the title track. In the context of the album, there's a lot to like. Boards of Canada somewhat honing their sound here, I think. The production just sounds better already. Some standout songs for me are Logax. The way it mixes up the drums for me is just so like, like it's so good and simple. Double it up, baby. It has that really like 80s funky cheese that they've turned into some like weird fever dream. So this one for me, I think I would put it in the B tier. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, on to one of the big ones. Music Has the Right to Children, released in 1998. I was 8 years old. It's the seminal debut album from Boards of Canada, and maybe even a big influence on ambient music from here out. It's hauntingly nostalgic. The atmosphere has this weird level of like content sadness. Here's a warm mug of hot chocolate, but also, is anything real? Yeah, the ethereal synths and beats, the percussion samples are top notch. Then you have this sampled snippets of voices from like educational shows, which is just like, sounds so good in this like atmosphere. It creates this dreamlike sense of place and memory. Standout tracks like Roy G. Biv and Aquarius really capture this like hazy moment of childhood. It's hard to explain how warm and familiar it sounds whilst having these undertones of unease. I have this really embarrassing memory of me thinking I'm alone with my headphones on listening to Aquarius and just singing along going, Orange, whilst people are sitting there in the other room thinking I'm going crazy. Ugh. Anyway, I could talk way more about this album, but I think for me, I'm gonna put this in the S tier. Yeah, it's a classic. Back to an EP now with A Beautiful Place Out in the Country, released in the 2000. Only 4 tracks long, but still pretty effective. This for me sounds like a cult indoctrination album. That's kind of the vibe I get for it, but it's definitely a cult that I want to be in. Sign me up. As the title suggests, it does have like a bit of a rural feel to it. It's subtle, but it does feel like a totally new space compared to some of the other albums. It has a lush, dark atmosphere, which is kind of contradicting. It's foreboding, like someone's luring you with promises of like sweets or like puppies. But yeah, A Beautiful Place Out in the Country is brief, but just as effective as Music Has the Right to Children. So in my opinion, I would probably put this S tier for me. No, yeah, S tier. S tier. Geogaddy, released in 2002. This album weirdly feels darker in terms of tone, as if it could get any darker, but it definitely can. The album focuses on like symmetry, numbers, and hidden messages, which is really cool. Yet at times it feels like it overshadows the music a little bit, prioritizing concept over emotion. But saying that, it still dives deep into that surreal atmosphere. It's warped, it's eerie, and there's a lot of good tracks to love. Like Music is Math, 1969, and loads more. For me, it doesn't quite hit that same spot as Music Has the Right to Children, and so there's a few misses on the album for me, unfortunately. Geogaddy is fascinating and meticulous, but it's kind of divisive. So for me, I'm going to be putting this in B tier. Okay, the Campfire Headphase. I like this album's different approach compared to Geogaddy. It has more of an acoustic feel to it, a bit like adventurous feel to it. Listening back, it is still super luscious. It is like beautiful. Some of the tones in Day Van Cowboy still like overwhelm me a little bit. Yeah, it's a really good song. Also, the percussion on this album feels way more dynamic and natural, really kind of elevating this feel and sound. They kind of like turned their hazy lo-fi lens to a brighter open space, and I liked that. It was like a really nice change. Here especially, I think they keep things fresh without losing their identity. Sure, it might not have that edge that Geogaddy had, but it's got its own unique vibe. It feels like an open field rather than a fevered dream. That sounds cheesy, but yeah, it is. I think it goes to show their versatility in soundscape design. It's a nice change. I would put this in A tier. Another EP now, Trans-Canada Highway, released in 2006. Short but sweet, but again, feels like a bit of an extension of Campfire Headphase. It opens up with Day Van Cowboy, which is probably arguably one of their best tracks, but we've heard it on Campfire Headphase just now. Only a few other tracks really that I like on the album, Left Side Drive and Skyliner. Hopefully this isn't a controversial take, but I don't really care for the other songs on the album. The remix of Day Van Cowboy is just bad, and quite of the other tracks as well are just overall kind of underwhelming. So I'm going to put this in D tier. Yep. And finally, we have Tomorrow's Harvest, released in 2013, a whole 7 years after Trans-Canada Highway, and I kind of love this album. It's dark, it's cinematic, and it has this undertone of horror, which I just love. Channeling that 80s era of cinema. It's bleak yet mesmerizing. They really captured that essence of like sparseness, which is crazy to me. The soundscape they made is vast, desolate, and really quite rich and dense in sound. What I love is the storytelling. The album doesn't really end on a conclusion. It's kind of like those dystopian sci-fi 70s films like Logan's Run, where the protagonist sort of escapes but finds out he's part of something even more sinister and bleak. The album does feel a little more abstract compared to a few of the other songs, which again makes it feel a little less melodic here and there, but it makes up in atmosphere, so all good. I'm probably going to put this track in A tier. Yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with that. I think that settles it for me. I know I might have missed a few releases here and there, but these for me are the most important ones. Let me know if you agree. Feel free to discuss it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. Yeah, let me know if you liked the video. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, whatever you like, and hopefully I will catch you on the next one. Thank you and goodbye.